Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara Zoner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast. Hey, guys. Oh, why am I green? I'm green. It's not, you know what? It's not easy being green.
We talked about that before.
Hold on. I'm going to fix my green. This will be good. And I think we ought to keep this right in the video because I think that's the fun part of this whole.
It is, because this is our off the cuff. Let's just chit chat.
That's right. Here we go. Ready? And poof. Ha, I'm back. That's great. I'm so glad that happened.
That's why you listeners should tune in to our YouTube video so you can see fun things like what just happened.
It's not easy being green. Anyway, I'm back and I'm here and Tamara's here. And it has been an eventful couple of weeks. And this episode, Tamara and I have been discussing about, let's just go on and just talk about all the crap that's going on. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
So how are you, Tamara?
I'm really, really well. And yes, I just wanted to be able to chit chat with you because we've had so many amazing guests come on recently, like just phenomenal human beings. And we have more lined up. And I thought, well, geez, I kind of miss just chatting with John, just shooting the you know what, and let's catch up and let's kind of process all the fun stuff that's been happening for you and for Spirit Cafe, because our listenership and viewership has just exploded in the last couple of weeks.
And let me say that is thanks in no small part to Kim Carey and Intuitive View. If it were not for that interview, her interview with us and my interview, and now coming up your interview with her as well. I had a
beautiful conversation with her yesterday. I'm really excited about.
Yeah, she has been an incredible. Just to give it an example, when we before we brought Kim on, and before I did my interview with Kim, I think our viewership was in the 100s, and we have our subscribers. I mean, I'm sure subscribers. We have broken 700.
Yeah.
So we have jumped up like hugely.
Yeah, that's a big leap in a short time. And I looked at our downloads, and like that since the last 3 weeks has just hugely jumped too. In fact, according to those numbers, we're now in the top 50% of podcasts.
Look at you. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what these number means, but it seems fun. Let me find out.
You gotta get a little attitude head bob with that one.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh yeah, baby.
We moved on up
to the east side. All right, TV trivia. Sherman Hemsley, the guy who played George Jefferson, Wilmington, Delaware. That's where he's from. Thank you very much.
No kidding. Did not know that. It's fun.
And before he went into acting, he was a postman.
He was a postman. Well, thank goodness he went into acting, because the Jeffersons is classic.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So yeah, it's been. I'm really excited to see what happens after your interview with Kim goes live, because I think that what you bring to the table is huge, and I think that having her audience see what you do is going to be really impactful for you. I know for me, you know, I mine's been an interesting journey, because I was not out like you with your business. You were already going with and on September 10th at 9:00 in the morning, before the interview with her went live, I had just started the YouTube channel that I have.
Right.
And I had 4 subscribers that morning. And that morning was
4 is pretty good for the day one.
Oh yeah. It was me, you,
me,
my sister, and my friend Holly, who is like a sister to me as well.
Right. So
those were the 4 subscribers I had. At the peak, we had 444.
Wow.
In 19 days, right? We're right now at 441, because I put up some controversial videos to some people, and so I lost 2 or 3, which happens, and every channel goes up and down.
Well, yeah, you don't want, I mean, if you're really doing the truth of who you are in your work, then you're not going to have everyone as your fan.
especially
Right?
because what I talk about is, obviously, since last you and I had this kind of
Mhm.
conversations,
Mhm.
I have kind of come out of the spiritual closet a little bit.
Exact, a little bit, kind of a lot.
And what's interesting to me is that the things that I do talk about do directly challenge people's beliefs,
Mhm.
and many people are very invested in their beliefs.
Mhm.
And what I'm finding most fascinating though is that when you read the comments, people are saying, "Oh, this is exactly what I think. This is exactly what I've thought. This is, I'm glad somebody's finally saying it." So
Mhm.
that's very gratifying to me. So yeah, it's been a whoo. And tonight I'm doing my first live stream on that channel.
I know,
Um,
which will be old news by the time this episode airs. So this is
right,
exciting.
right, and it's even more exciting because it'll also, when that live stream is done, that'll be the 50th video on the channel. So that'll be very
It's
exciting.
amazing.
Uh,
You've done so, you are really the fast action hero, cranking that stuff out. Yeah, I've got,
well, look at you. You're doing the same thing, though. I'm seeing your videos coming out, and I'm seeing that you're getting these, Monday. What is it? Monday.
You Matter Mondays. I love alliteration. I'm a
Yeah.
total nerd. So it's You Matter Mondays, which is based off of what I used to do when I was just doing this on the side and starting off. I would do Your Monday Minute in my blog, and I would just literally talk for a minute really quickly, like just that snippet, because I know people's attention spans can be short and we're busy in our lives. And so now it's 5 minutes ish. And then I do Truth Bomb Tuesdays, and what's my Wednesday one? I'm trying to think of a topic for today. It's 5 minutes for you. Your
Oh.
weekly Wednesday, 5 minutes for you, just a little snippet of like, what can you do to demonstrate your own self-love and care in 5 minutes?
Hmm.
In just 5 minutes a day. You deserve a hell of a lot more, but you can take five. You can make 5 minutes for yourself,
Right.
no matter
Right.
what your life looks like.
And I love that you walk your talk, because if you watch your videos and you see comments on your videos, your responses to people are they're very personal in regards to, you're there in support.
Mm.
um and I highly appreciate that, especially now, because all this crazy stuff is going on with me right now.
Mm.
There has been nobody more supportive than you for all this, because you rock. um,
Thank you.
my friend Holly is giddy that I'm back into this work.
Yes,
um my friend Tim, my gosh, oh my gosh, you guys saw the interview you did with my friend Tim.
he's great.
He's greater than you know. He calls me up lately, and we've been just talking for hours. And he's like so much like, "John, you have to do this work." He's pushing me, pushing me, pushing me. And I'm like, "All right, dude, I'm doing it. What's the deal?" Right. um,
I'm
but
on it.
come on, what are we talking about? Right. But even tonight, the live stream tonight, he is going to be the moderator on the chat board. So I mean,
Nice.
he is so completely supportive, and I'm very fortunate to have him, like, like him and Holly, and specifically you, because you have been just my rock during a lot of this, and you've been like kicking my butt with the
I
cosmic
was
2x4.
just thinking, are you sure you didn't think I was throwing rocks at you to get you moving?
Well, what's funny is that first time that you and I had that conversation about my past life and all that stuff, you were like, "All right, so what are we doing about it?" I was like, "Who is this woman?" Right.
Well,
You were like,
so
"Oh,
clearly you're calling to bring people along on this path of love. It's so clear. And for me, you were living this double-sided life where you're this corporate person and you feel this spiritual pull. And for me, like, listeners, John and I have talked extensively about how to get more into the corporate world, and because that's where the money is, and blah blah, and we all need to support ourselves and our families, right? And yet for me, I can't separate the two, right? I can scale it back depending on the audience, or bring it forward depending on the audience, but I know for sure that I cannot hide my spirituality from my work and my audience. And for me, I know that showing up authentically as I am with the messages that come through me is what I'm here for. And so if I try to shut it down, well, then I'm not doing the work I'm meant to be doing. And so, and I see that in you, right? And I saw that in you, and I was like, wait, no, but you're clearly here to bring forth this message of love. And so why would you censor yourself? And why would you, and I think too, we've talked about this about relationships, we've talked about your specific relationships, Mr. Triple X or whatever you
triple X. Got three of them.
Is that if you're doing it in one area of your life, and this is the collective you people, I am talking to all of us. If we're doing that censoring in one area of our lives, we're doing it in all areas of our lives. And so when we commit to showing up fully as who we are, no matter what anyone else thinks, and in the most loving way, not in some kind of bully jerk way, then we have to do that in every area. And that doesn't mean you have to be the full on biggest, loudest version of you in every circumstance, but it means that you bring all of you into it, into every experience. And you get to choose lovingly where you fully shine that light on full blast, or where you maybe create more mood lighting, not dimming your light, but creating mood lighting.
I love that. I love that. And I'm going to give a real world example of exactly what you're talking about. Okay. So Corporate Action Hero was the other business, right? Mm-hmm. My YouTube channel, I put out a video every day on that channel. Mm-hmm. for a long time. And I think my earliest video on there was 2013. All right. So I put a lot of videos out. Mm-hmm. I would come into the video studio, I would sit down, I would open up Bartlett's book of quotations, and I would sit here and I would go through to find a quotation that I could talk about. And then I would go on and I would talk for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I would say, okay, video done. It was heartless.
Yeah.
It was heartless. There was no passion in it. It was just like, I got to get a video out because that's what I do. Right.
Right.
I started the John of New channel. I sit down, and next thing you know, I've talked for 30 minutes. Right. Or I've talked for 15 minutes. I mean, I think the shortest one on there is 9 minutes, but I don't even look up the book of quotation. What's actually interesting, what I'm doing is I've elicited the viewers to give me questions.
I think that's brilliant.
And I'm just sitting there answering what they want to hear, mm-hmm. and what they want to learn about. And I, if I don't know what they're, have no memory of that, I don't talk about it. I just say, I don't know. Right. Who cares? Right. But I don't sugarcoat. I feel totally free. I feel totally free to just say what I want. And there have been a couple. There have been one guy who came on and accused me of starting my own religion. And my response to him was, please, it's interesting. Tell me how. And he deleted his comment and went away. Right? Because right.
And who cares if you start your own religion?
I do.
I mean,
I do. Hang on, I do, because I would never do that, because I think that it's antithetical to the teachings that I teach.
Yeah.
Spirituality is your own journey, not following somebody else's doctrine, mm-hmm. right?
You can have your own religion for yourself. You're not, in fact, asking people to follow you along and follow your own spiritual rules.
Right. In fact, that's one of the biggest key tenets to what I talk about is, Buddha once said, believe no one, even me, unless it rings true to your own spirit, mm-hmm, yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's what I totally believe. I said, don't listen to me either. Right. Listen to your heart. That's the key.
Yeah. Yes. And if what my heart says matches what your heart's saying, then, we have great conversations and communications. And I feel like religion is this box that community lives in, and mm-hmm. we don't need the box to have the community.
Right. And I think religions, and I love this topic because I think we all have universal truths. We all have this knowledge, but I think that sometimes that knowledge is too simple,
Mhm.
that people start putting things around it to make sense of it. And I think that's what religions are, is they kept putting more and more things around it to make sense of it. And then the rules started happening and all the different things. You have to do this, you have to get
Right.
baptized, you have to, you're born a
Do you
sinner.
think do you think it's part of the process of spiritual evolution to be able to be your own leader and to be able to like search for your own truths instead of needing, and it's okay for those people who need that leadership, right? To say, I don't really know what I believe, so tell me. Do you think that's
Mhm.
like the spiritual evolution of the soul, where we start off and we're just like, I don't know, so tell me.
Right.
And then as we grow through our lives, I mean
And,
that, you know.
and I think I yes. And I think the evolution that's happening right now is they are shifting from tell me what I'm supposed to believe to tell me what you believe. And if it feels right, I'll believe it.
That. And that's what
Yeah.
I think, that we each have that gift that we can give ourselves in
Right.
really having, tuning into our own truths. And like you and I are both eclectic spiritualists, right? We've taken from different religions
I did a video the other day called God is a Salad Bar.
to go watch that one. Yes, because we're but and since I was young, at least in my teenage years, where or maybe it was even once I got to college, but reading books, I've talked about Clan of the Cave Bear before, seeing that there were different ways to worship and different ways to believe, and not just having Catholicism, shoved down my throat. Ever since then, I was like, oh, I can believe something different from what I was taught. Cool. Let me explore this. And that's where I did collect. I love Buddhism, and I love all the different pagan, spiritual followings, and just different aspects of different things. And absolutely the salad bar, I love it. Like if you don't like onions, just leave them there.
Right, right,
If
right.
you want extra pine nuts, then you can throw them in
Right,
there.
right, right. And it was fun. The reason that video was made was because years ago, I had a woman who was devoutly Catholic, who came at me hard online, about my spiritual beliefs and how I thought spirituality was a salad bar. You can't. And then she said, "You can't pick and choose from where you want." And I said, "Says who? Who are
That's
you to
my
say that I
priest.
can't?" Yeah, right. Who are you to say that, right? And that's the interesting thing about that I find interesting is beliefs are so personal,
Oh, they
and
are.
some people take on beliefs. This is going to sound weird. They take on beliefs to feel powerful. And
Mm,
to give you an example, I've only had a couple negative responses on my videos so far. And the first one I told you about, the one that accusing me of starting a religion. The other one was somebody who looked at a video I put up of the photograph I took of Jesus in Norway.
mhm,
I did a video about that picture,
mhm.
and he came on and says, "You've got a big imagination. That's just smoke." I said, "Oh, really? I respect your opinion." And then he came back with, um, "I know Jesus personally, and I can introduce him to you if you want." And I
Okay.
said, "Okay." And then the more he talked, the more I realized that was his power play. He
Mm.
he was telling people he was the doorway to Jesus. And
Oh, that's not cool to me.
yeah, no, it wasn't cool at all. And I was like, to me, my memories of him of Jesus are interesting because I have very distinct memories of a man who had immense crazy knowledge and people ask about the miracles. I I don't have distinct memories of most of them, but I believe he did them. I mean, I have it. My intuition says he did do the loaves and the fishes, right?
Mm.
Um, but I think he had an understanding about the nature of this illusion that we don't have. Um, but no one has the is the doorkeeper for Jesus, in my opinion, right?
No, just like no one is the doorkeeper for your own spiritual beliefs and your own
Amen.
relationship with God, or if you call it the yada yada now,
Yeah,
that's cool.
which we ought to do. God is yada yada. That's a T-shirt. I'm telling you. God is yada yada.
I
Spirit
believe
Cafe.
in the one great yada yada. And it's nobody has to align perfectly with everything you say. I remember my mother, the first time I was like, no, I'm not going to go back to church, Mom. And she just like cried, and she was so upset because she thought, that I wouldn't have a relationship with that higher power. And I said, Mom, I just don't need a middleman, right? I have that relationship with source myself, and I don't need a priest telling me how to have that relationship. And then, and Jesus himself, I personally, yes, think he was a great charismatic man and leader and existed. But do I believe he's actually the son of that higher power? Not necessarily. We all are the children of whatever being created all of us. And so Jesus was just one cool dude who had a more open heart and mind to connect to the greater consciousness.
Right. A lot of the things that are talked about him, especially, is based in a very patriarchal society from a couple thousand years ago. And so the whole father son hierarchies, that's the trappings of the time written around him. And he was an amazing man who was way ahead of his time. I mean, because he actually did respect women and treat women well. And in a time where women, people often ask me what it was like back in those days. And the only thing that I can in modern day liken it to is Afghanistan right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Women were subjugated, men were the rulers. That's the way it was, right?
Yeah.
That Taliban it's medieval, pre-medieval, prehistoric, or ancient, put it that way. Ancient, better word. Prehistoric, like dinosaurs and rogues.
That could be an interesting television show.
It totally would. But it's so fascinating. Another one that I want to bring up, and I think I would love to hear your insight on this, because I found this fascinating. I put up a video the other day about all of the virgin births that all of the religions talk about. Okay. And there's tons of them.
There's really? I didn't know that.
Tons of them. And the majority of them are Roman.
Okay.
And there are no virgin births in the Jewish faith that they talk about. That I could be wrong. There could be somewhere, but there's none that they talk about openly in their religion. But when you look at the actual list that is out there, there's a ton of Roman people, virgin births. There's there's Egyptian virgin births, there's Chinese virgin births, there's virgin birth, right? Okay. So I basically did a video. I said this was one of the things at the time, to make someone deified, they had to have a virgin birth. So you created a virgin birth around their story, right? And then I was like, my memories of Yeshua, his name was Yeshua ben Joseph, which means he's the son of Joseph.
Right.
So, right. So Joseph was a man. Joseph died before the crucifixion. And I don't remember how he died, but I know he wasn't there. And I know that the reason why John took Mary into his house is because there was no Joseph around. But what I found interesting was when I put this video up, someone commented, and her first response was, he says, I love your videos, but I have to object with your demystifying the birth of Jesus. And that statement was interesting to me, because what I'm doing is I'm demystifying, is what she's saying I'm doing. I'm demystifying. When I think that's exactly what I'm doing. And I think that's the perfect way to say it, because he never, the stories around him are not true, in my opinion, from my belief, my experiences, that he was an amazing man who did amazing things. And all the mystical stuff that's been put around him. And don't get me wrong, I think there's some mystical things that he did, but because of his connection and what he knew about the illusion. But I'm demystifying a lot of the stories that have been placed, and the 2,000 years of fish stories that have been added to.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that fish story. The guy catches the guppy, and by the end of the story, the fish is taken down the boat. you know, get 2,000 years of that from multiple cultures, languages, and people who just didn't like the story and changed it. So,
Right.
but the whole demystifying thing was interesting to me. So my response to her was, I said, I respect your opinion. I said, spirituality is a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
I said, the only questions I have is why an objection, and is your belief the only way?
Ooh,
And those are the
what'd
only
she
questions.
answer?
She
Did
didn't
she
answer.
answer?
She didn't answer yet. She might still.
Those were good questions. Yeah,
Well,
because it's all about just opening up the mind, right? I think demystifying is important because we're just opening up the mind, and can we have these conversations as
right.
a whole, right? Can we not have respectful conversations and just say, oh, well, here's what I believe, and you say, well, here's what I believe, and we say, okay, cool.
Right. And and something else I said was, I think it's actually more of an amazing story that he was just like us.
Mhm.
And did all these amazing things. It's so much more of an amazing
So
story.
fascinating. And that reminds me of things that, all of the intuitive friends that we've had on the show recently say too. We all have this ability, right? We all have this. And it's really down to how much clutter we can get rid of to connect and actually hear those messages from source.
And I think also sometimes it's just a matter of recognizing it, because
Sure.
I think probably everybody who's listening to this video right now or this podcast right now, have at some point in their life been talking to somebody and looking for a word. A certain word pops in their head they've never used,
Mm-hmm.
and they end up using it in the sentence, and they go back later and they look up the word. It was the exact perfect word for that sentence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a word that they wouldn't necessarily have ever used. I think everyone has had that experience at least once. And I think that there's a moment where you walk into the room and you sense that there's been a fight in the room, or something's weird. I think we all have but I think it's a matter of, trust is developed by results over time. And I think that if you want to come to the awareness of your personal psychic / spiritual abilities,
Mm-hmm.
you have to start recognizing them and saying, yes, that's what that is. And then over time you build up trust. And then because of the trust, you start to have more and more experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. what an interesting week it has been, or 2 weeks it has been.
Yeah. So fun. So fun. I'm proud of you for coming out of your spiritual closet and doing the work you're really meant to be doing in the world. I mean, that's why I wanted to take you through your passion test, because, it helps
And,
us really get to the truth of who we are and what we really want.
right. And it's interesting because this work was not the number one of the passion test, but
was it even on your list? I can't remember.
I have to go look
Did it
it
make
up.
your top 5?
Yeah. I think so.
It's interesting because when I'm introducing the passion test in a workshop, I talk about Jack Canfield, and one of his passions on his list, and I don't believe it actually ended up in his top 5. It was like number 6 or something. I don't know why he found out the 6, but Janet was still refining the process then. It was to be a part of a spiritual network with leaders, spiritual leaders and transformational leaders. And as he went through and made his list, and Janet took him through his test, he realized that wasn't anywhere in his life. And 6 months later, he created the Transformational Leadership Council with people like Janet and Chris Atwood and Michael Bernard Beckwith and John Gray and Marcy Shimoff, and all these incredible personal transformation or spiritual leaders, and it's just phenomenal, because you may not realize that something is even important to you until you really sit down and start to tap into your heart and dream a little and think, what do I want my life to look like and feel like? And I think that just that process opens us up just so much. And just you going through the process, whether you ended up with that on your top 5 or not, doesn't really matter, because it was you taking one step further into your authentic being and deciding to show up fully as you.
Yes, and what's really interesting is that that's been first of all the crux of your work is getting people to be authentic,
Mhm.
right? And from day one of talking to you, you've been smacking me with the 2x4, right? Right, get back at it, boy.
Not a literal one, my friends.
The spiritual 2x4. um, um, but now that I'm doing the work, it's much more fulfilling.
Mhm.
It's much more free. Um, and what's interesting is like people are hearing this, and this is the thing that made somebody asked me a question this morning, which I thought was a great question. He said, "Do you think there are teachers, or do you think there are people who just help you remember?"
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that a great question, right? And my response was interesting because I stopped and I thought about it, and I just started giving him um, quotes from the comments on the videos, and the quotes are like, I've always thought this. I can't believe you're saying the things that I've always thought, or like this really resonates with me.
Yeah.
Those are, to me, that means that they're remembering, or they're experiencing the truth.
Mhm.
And what so when it's interesting, and this is gonna, oh man, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. All right. All
All
right.
right. Hang on.
I believe in intuition and feeling that way, right?
Mhm.
And what some you said Jack Canfield, and I went, whoa, and I felt like a hit on Jack Canfield. And I've listened to Jack Canfield for years, and I've read the Chicken Soup books, and I've done all the stuff, right?
Mhm.
But you said Jack Canfield, and I was like, oh, and I just was like, I feel like I'm going to connect with Jack Canfield somehow.
Ooh.
I feel that. I don't know whether it'll happen or not, but I'm going to just trust that feeling is interesting,
See, and
and
that's fun because I'll be like, when that happens, then I'll say, yeah, I just felt like I had to share that part of that story. And when have I've never mentioned Jack Canfield to you before, right?
never,
So,
never.
mhm.
I
So that'll
totally
be
was like
fun to
in my
watch.
in my stomach. I felt that. I was like, ooh, okay.
Hmm,
So I think I'm going to reach out.
cool. Why
what
not?
the what the heck? Um, so yeah, it's great to see the two of us coming into that really truly authentic work,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because even when you and I were talking the corporate stuff, which all my corporate stuff is still up.
Yeah.
People can still hire me if they want to, but
Right.
I haven't had any hits at all.
Interesting, huh?
None at all. I mean,
See, that is the perfect example for all the people who think, oh no, this door closed or this isn't happening for me. It's guidance. It is
right,
guidance.
right, and I think those years doing the corporate work, like I've said this many times, I felt like I was doing spiritual work there,
Mhm.
and I felt like I was bringing messages, but I was wrapping it in their vocabulary,
Yes.
and that's how I met you,
Right.
right? I
Yeah.
came there and I was doing super secret spiritual work is what I was doing when you and I met.
Hmm.
And now it's like the veil can be let down. But the difference really is, and this I find fascinating. I truly believe that the veil is getting thinner and that we are coming to an age of enlightenment. I think that people are becoming awake and things are changing drastically and fast. And I think it's all good.
Hmm.
And one of the things that really shows this to me is I have the privilege of being able to look at when I came out big time before and when I'm coming out now, right?
Hmm. Right.
And though scientifically, my science mind jumps in here a little bit, but I know that the people who are watching my videos now came directly from Kim, which so they're already in psychic and
Right. They're
spiritually
already
minded,
open.
already open. But years ago, I was speaking at associations for research and enlightenment and unity churches and all those. So they're pretty much open too, right? But back then, they were all about who I was in a past life. This group that I'm talking to now,
Hmm.
they're interested in things from that past life, but they're interested in the meaning behind those
Yeah.
things. And
Yes.
it's a very different energy from 20 years ago to now, right?
Hmm.
And to me, I think that is a direct correlation to the shift in consciousness, the world. People ask me about the second coming all the time, right? So this is an interesting topic to talk about, and I haven't done a video on this, so we'll leave it here on Spirit Cafe.
All right.
So, all right. The word Christ means anointed one. That's all it means. Doesn't mean anything else but anointed one. Christ consciousness is all of us stepping into our power, right? So the second coming of the anointed one is the people anointing themselves.
Beautiful.
Okay, so that to me is that's the second coming, right?
I loved that. Kim on her show always says like she gets chills when it's truth, and I just got chills. Yeah.
Well, and think, the idea of him coming back and do that, I think when the veil thins, we're going to see all kinds of things. I mean, you're seeing, like, I took a picture of a church in Norway and his face showed up in it. So why couldn't he show up again? He already is. I mean, he showed up in my picture.
It'll be like,
but I think my mom will too. I think my mom will show up too, right?
Well, and everybody does, right?
Right,
in my belief is that we come back in different physical forms, and sometimes, and you talked about this too, where there's this the energy of a soul so big that it splits, right? So
yes, there's a lot of people who believe that, and I believe a little differently. Okay. What I believe is that there is no splitting, that the energy of souls are all one, and we tap into it. I don't think of it as a single entity that splits up in parts. Like, I know that my memories of the past life of Yochanan ben Zebedee, that was the name, and he called me Hannah, right? I know that there's probably other people in this world who probably have the same memories. There's probably other people in this world who tap into that experience because it's all one. It's all one giant consciousness. I think for some reason I have now there's weird esoteric things in this too. Like John 20, 21, 22. It's the weirdest thing. And it's one of those things that people tackle all the time because Jesus had said somebody's going to betray him. Peter says, who is it? And Jesus doesn't tell him, and he turns and he sees John, and he points at him and says, what of him? And Jesus says, if I want him to stay until I come, what's that to you? I'm talking to you. And then it says, from that point on, the disciples believed that John would not die. And that, and then it says, but that's not what he said. He said, if I want him to stay until I come. So when I look back at the regression, there's a point in the regression when I say there's something in me here for him to come back to, like a beacon, like an energetic beacon.
I love that. Okay.
So I'm curious whether within the vast consciousness of all, whether a point in space is needed to bring the consciousness back to. You know what I mean? And so I think that when I think of this picture of this, I think the consciousness of John is still touching this plane of existence. I'm probably just one of the ones who is touching that plane of existence. I'm probably just one of the ones who's holding this tether.
Right.
Because if you think about it,
interesting concept.
It is an interesting concept. And then you think about right now in pop culture, there are multiple movies coming out with superheroes in them, and all of them are talking about the multiverse.
Okay.
About how in this giant vast universe, there are different Earths and different things depending upon how things are played out. Right.
Like a choose your own adventure story?
Like a choose your own adventure story. So now imagine your consciousness goes to the other side, but you have to come back to one of them. You have to leave an anchor behind to come back to.
Okay.
Right. I find it interesting that the pop culture is going to those storylines.
I gotta watch more superhero movies.
Actually, if you have kids, the one that your kids should watch is it's an anime called Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar.
Airbender. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, yeah. Don't watch the movie. The movie's I like the movie. Most people hate the movie. It was a Shyamalan movie, M. Night Shyamalan. But it's not. It doesn't match the anime. The anime, when you watch it as an adult, my kid loved it, right? Loved the whole thing. We watched it adult. You get past some of the more juvenile dialect or dialogue. Mm-hmm. There are these underlying themes about karma and truth and love and compassion and it's fascinating to watch. And I was told my kid, I said, well, you can watch this all day long. You can watch this whenever you want because this is the greatest thing ever, right? Now he's 18 and he's on to different animes, but he'll be 18 in a month.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. But the concept of the second coming and the consciousness, I think it's all of us awakening, and I think the anointed one is us. In the Bible, he says, "I am the Son of God. You are the children of God." And if you think about that from the perspective, get closer to my microphone. You think about that from the perspective of one of them accepted it, mm-hmm. and the others hadn't yet. Mm-hmm. And that's what he was telling you. Accept it and step into it. And we got off on a deep topic when we were here today.
That's what we do.
Right. But I think
love that idea of us all, or not maybe all of us for sure, because not everyone will, but embracing our consciousness and our connectedness. And that's exactly the work that you and I are both doing in this world, both together and separately, is to help people, and to be that permission giver just by example. Like I don't have to give anybody permission to embrace spirituality as their own journey and what they choose to believe, and to collect the different beliefs that work for them, that feel right for them. But by living that example, I give permission just by my being, right? And that's what we're doing.
And in living that example, you're going to have your human struggles.
Sure, because we're here in a human form, and there are human challenges.
The conversation we just had, that was me struggling with this information, trying to figure it out, right? And I think every one of us has those struggles. There's a woman who I've been talking to on my YouTube channel, who is coming from a devoutly Catholic background, and she's liking what she's hearing. She's believing some of it, but she's still struggling with it because of the background, And for me personally, I did start with that Catholic upbringing, but fortunately, I was able to go study and do all kinds of other things. But I struggle with the humanness of it, because the concepts are so big. There's an interesting moment that happened, and I want to kind of bring it up here because it makes sense with what I'm saying right now. After I found out about my past life and the first psychic that I was dealing with channeled Jesus to me, and it was a very profound, very visual experience. I mean, her face changed. I had third eye visions. I had all kinds of things. But for days after that, this is the part that kind of I grapple with understanding the meaning of. When I looked out my eyes at the world, I saw it in two dimensions. And so I was sitting there on the shoreline looking at the ocean, and it was almost as if I could reach out and grab the ocean and move it.
Oh, wow.
So I had this experience of it is simply illusion and energy, and I have control over this illusion. I just don't know how yet. Mm-hmm. And so to me, when I look at that big, giant, crazy concept, and I had that for days. I had that. I was like, okay, this is weird, right? Still today, and I can guarantee you pretty much everybody I talk to, and you as well, um, when you look at a solid color of something, you know, your first inclination is, oh, that's the color black, right? But the more you focus on that color black, the more you'll start to see the little dots and the little grains and and then you start to realize that what you're experiencing is, for lack of a better word, the pixelation. You're seeing the energy that's creating that. And so the very big, broad, larger perspective is that everything you're seeing is the part of the solution. And so that day, and thank you, I'm working this out right now.
Sure, I'm fascinated.
That day when I was seeing that, I was realizing, Joshua understood that. And somebody asked me this morning, did he walk on water? And I have no memory of it, but for some reason I believe he did it. Well, if this is true, what I'm saying about this illusion and this energy, and the body's illusion, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to. There's no reason why you should not be able to walk on water if that was the reality. The problem that I find is that we all live in rational minds.
Right.
And to live in a spiritual world, you have to be irrational.
Oh, that's it. That's a conundrum right there.
Right.
Yeah, we have these rational minds. So in order to see beyond the illusion, then we have to be irrational, and then we're certainly facing judgment.
right
of being that wacky one out there. And I think that's why a lot of people do hesitate to embrace their own spirituality and their own truth of it beyond what they've learned in any building, is that they'll be seen as crazy or the black sheep or different. And as much as we embrace our own uniqueness and diversity, we also just want to be the same and fit in. Right. So if we're saying, if I have 50 family members who all say one thing, which basically I do, and I say something else, well, I have to be so strong and loving within myself that I am willing to have them turn away from me, so that I can be who I am and believe what I believe with full conviction.
Right.
And most of us don't want our loved ones to turn away. And I certainly wouldn't want them to.
Well,
and I think they almost always come back.
Right. Well, if you think about this, we all want unconditional love. But if you have a different belief system than somebody else, that's the condition.
Right. And if they turn away from you, then that is not unconditional love. And if they embrace you, then it is. And sometimes there's a middle time. In my own experience, I turned away from the church, and I did things that my mom was like, nope, you're going to hell. Because you're not following this, and this, and those friends of yours, they're going to hell too. And I was like, cool, party in hell. But we're gonna have a good time.
Woo, go ahead now.
And as time passed and she grew as I was growing on a different path, then she came back, and love won, right? Love won. Right. Not her judgments of what her Bible or her priest told her were right or wrong, but her love for me. And we came back together, and she knows I have different beliefs, and she accepts that about me.
Right.
And if she doesn't tell me about it. So there's harmony.
Well, and I think that the universal truths that are out there will bypass a lot of the religious belief anyway. My mom, when I first started talking about the past life stuff, my mom went to her priest, who was an Irishman, an Irish Catholic priest. And she goes to him and she says, I'm really concerned about my son. He thinks he was a reincarnated apostle. And the priest literally went like this. Don't discount it. It might be true. That's a Catholic priest who said, don't discount it. It might be true. My mom and I at the end of our life, end of her life, her life, right? We were able to talk about deep spiritual topics. We were able to talk about her transition to the other side.
Yeah.
We were able to talk, we were able to literally talk her through this thing. And she asked me, she was losing her voice because of they put a breathing tube down and damaged one of her vocal cords. And over the course of her life, her voice was going away. And we were talking about how to heal it. And I said, the only person who can heal it is you believing you can heal it. I said, but the innate problem with Catholic prayer is Catholic prayer is not prayer, it's affirmation. They go and they ask weekly for the same thing, which is declaring that they don't have it.
Right.
And that's not faith. Faith is I am healed.
Right.
And so we had a big conversation about that. She never lost her voice in life, but she was on her way to it. And then when she passed away, she's come back multiple times through mediums, which isn't Catholic, which, so it's
and aren't we going to talk to one of them sometime?
The one who mom came through multiple times. And it's interesting because when mom came through, and this is to me is fascinating. When mom came through, the lady didn't know that we were in the audience. Okay. Because it was a group, like she was on stage and we were in the dark and thousands. And my sister, the one time I went, my sister specifically wouldn't sit next to me because she didn't want the lady on stage to see us together, because she's a science-minded individual, my sister. And so she's like, she don't want her to see us together and think that she's going to bring the same person through because of the two of us being together. So when mom came through, when I was there, it was like the lady on stage was like, I'm getting this. Does this match for anybody? And I'm like, I raised my hand. Oh, thank God. I don't know where it was going. Right. But mom came through for my sister first, for me and my sister second, for two of my sisters the third time.
Wow.
And I think there's one more time. And when I say mom came through, she said very specific things. But what I find most fascinating was she said very specific things about the life while she was here. But she also very specifically answered questions that we had now. And so that consciousness is here and present right now, right? And there's a famous John quote that's all over everything, 3:16, right? And God so loved the world, he gave his only son, that those who believe in him shall have eternal life, right? The first part of that is patriarchal crap. Right. God gave his son, blah, blah, blah. Right. Those who believe in him, take the word in out. Those who believe him shall have eternal life. Right. Meaning they'll all start to understand that here and there is not, the going between here and there is not an ending of life. Right. It's a transition of self.
Yeah, it's a state change.
Right. And so that being said, there is no death. It is eternal life. We already live it. We just have to come to the awareness of it. And so it's just a fascinating thing. But I'm sure I went off on a weird tangent there. I apologize.
Hey, this is the tangent episode, so that's cool.
That's what we're going to call it.
And this is not the end of this podcast. It's simply a transition to the next one. The next episode.
You are good.
It's about that time. So before we do, and John hits that stop recording button, I want to thank all of you for being here, for being with us, for supporting us, for, to Kim, Carrie, for introducing so many of you to us and to our channel and to our podcast, and for being such beautiful humans. You're so loving and so supportive. And I'm so grateful that some of you are on Spirit Cafe, and now some of you are over at John of New, and
John
some
of
of
New,
you
yeah,
John of New. I'm like with an H. And some of you are over with me at Tamara's Owner, and just building this community, because that's what we started doing this for. We love just talking to each other, but it's even more fun to create community and have conversations with all of you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so grateful. And we do want to hear your comments and questions and read them, and topic suggestions and cool people that you'd love to hear on our show with us. Because I hear we have kind of a unique format, and that it's a lot of fun for listeners.
Yeah, who knew?
I
know?
Everybody says that though. Yeah, this is so unique. So cool. So keep coming back and letting us know what you think and what you feel and how you're impacted by these conversations. And we will talk to you again next week.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Leave all comments and suggestions on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page.